So excited to be here tonight. Welcome to Dating Differently with Demi and Dr. Conti. As you can see, my co host isn't with me today, but we have a really amazing guest that we're going to bring in shortly. And today we're talking about healthy boundaries. We're talking about the power of healthy boundaries. And so I'm excited to bring in our guest. We're going to have a male perspective tonight. So I'm going to pop him on stage now. Dr. Robbie, hi.
Hi. It is very nice to be here. I have listened to you and Dr. Conti over the last couple of months. I love what you're doing with the space and dating, and I'm excited to be here and offer the male perspective.
I'm glad. I'm glad you're here too. And so, we're talking about healthy boundaries. And so the first thing is I'm going to go into it's the boundaries that you send out, the boundaries and the signals that you send. And that's because, my space is dating online. And sometimes people complain that others are crossing their boundaries, but they haven't looked at the signals that they're sending. Okay. And we all know that. We've talked about this, you and I. We all know that dating is different today. Dating in 1986 and dating in 2026 is very different. And one of the new things that we have is dating on social media because online dating, social media, people have access to just far more potential partners than ever before, than years ago. So, where did we meet people before?
Oh, we met him in the park. Your friend had a. I know someone. You have family members, and then there's a dreaded church or supermarket. Yeah, that's where old folks, older guys, older women used to meet people. It's not like that anymore.
You know what? You made me laugh when you said the dreaded church, but today, when you know you can connect with hundreds or even thousands of people with a swipe, that really creates more choices, but more competition, and sometimes a lot more pressure just to then to stand out.
Right, because you are letting in not only friends but foes. And I do love your topic this week because your boundaries actually dictates how people treat you. And
Yeah.
without having these healthy boundaries in place, you're actually going to be mistreated because you're not standing up or you're not setting these limitations for yourself.
Yeah. But when you feel pressure, because we just decided to talk about being online, when you feel pressure, you may start presenting a version of yourself
Mhm.
that's really designed to attract attention rather than attract compatibility.
And I definitely have to laugh at that because I have been there where the what you're representing is something that you are not, because I know it's difficult, especially in this competitive dating. You feel you have to, uh, and I'll be honest, guys, their attention span are that of a gnat, very short. So we don't read your profile. We don't know your likes. We see a picture and we say yes or no. And what I've seen from the male perspective, what we see from the women, are some very questionably dressed in different positions just to get your attention. That's the bait that you're putting out there. If that's the bait that you're putting out there, that boundary that you have just not established, you're going to get the attention you may not want.
I know. Well, you showed them some of them to me, and we've talked about it. So you're posting provocative photos. But we all know that it happens, probably happens with males and females, showcasing luxury cars, expensive vacation, designer clothes, whether it's purses, and for guys, the watches or stacks of cash. It's creating this image. Look what I have.
Well, for men, the pressure is on us too. because we have to come across as a good, healthy provider, that we have it going on and all that. Yes, it could be our friend's car that we're posting in front of. It could be our neighbor's house that we're standing in front of. Yes, we will perpetrate the fraud, just try to get that like or swipe and say, I will convince her with words otherwise.
You know what? It's funny you said that because I remember going through social media, and one time I saw a gentleman standing or sitting on a staircase. And I'm like, that house looks familiar. And do you know, it was at a time when I had a home up for sale, and that person was posting and posing in my home. So you're exactly right. That's what they do. But again, are you attracting the people that you want, or are you attracting the people your profile is advertising to? And we're talking about this because as you put those things together, as you put a profile together, and that's what I coach and talk about, is how do you really try to project who you are, the genuine you, the person that you want people to get to know, because that's the person who you want to match with. And if your profile emphasizes wealth and status or lifestyle, like you said, then they're already crossing possibly some of the boundaries that you have in place. So you shouldn't ever be surprised if some of the people we're attracting really to your resources rather than to your character.
You're right, because as a guy, if my profile and I'm flashing dollars and I'm doing that, then I meet someone who's sweet and then she asks me for money or she's a gold digger. I'm like, wow, I can't find any good woman out here. Well, it's the bait that I use to catch her. That's the type of person that she is. It was my fault. I didn't set that boundary to begin with. I remember one time there was this online I was dating. I had just started to talk to her, but I knew she was behind on rent. I knew that her lights were about to get cut off. I knew all that. I had financial boundaries in place because that's one of the boundaries I have. So I didn't get sucked into that vortex of, oh, let me help you, because my job is not to fix you. That is not my job. If I'm looking for a healthy relationship, I'm looking for a healthy partner in a healthy space. If you have some issues that you need to be addressed, like, oh, I have some financial issues, but once I get back on my feet, I'll be a good. No, you're not ready, because if you have financial issues, the last thing you want is to start dating. Fix that first.
So we've been talking about healthy boundaries, but you know, what is a boundary? I know a lot of people, you may be thinking about that. Is the boundary the same as the standard? No. Is the
No.
boundary the same as a non negotiable? No. Boundaries are what makes us emotionally and physically and mentally and spiritually safe. I think you
Yes.
talked about not lending money to the people I'm dating or
Yes.
potentially going to date. Or, for a lot of women, it's not giving out my home address early in dating, or needing my personal time and space without feeling guilty about it, or not being comfortable with physical intimacy until trust has been established. But one of the things we talked about is even in our profiles, if we're showing a lot of skin or
Mm,
putting that forward, but then someone matches with us, and we decide to meet and greet, or start dating, we seem surprised when they want to come over or want to invite us over, or they're making the moves when we're not really comfortable with that.
right. And yes, from your profile, we cannot really discern what your boundary is when you start talking to someone, it's when those come into play. And be upfront. Be upfront. What are your boundaries? If you have issues with me talking to my ex, let me know early. Don't wait until hey, I have a call. It's my no. If you have a problem with family members or whatever, again, If you have boundaries, the only way that I would know is if you let me know, or else I may step on them and then we have hurt feelings. So, and that goes for guys and girls. If you have boundaries, I think you should let your partner know those boundaries early and often. I mean, there's a nice way just to express your boundaries. What will fly and not fly. There's this girl I used to date. She always took the Lord name in vain for everything. She said, Jesus. And my religious boundary, it bothered me. And I had to let her know, hey, I am not comfortable with you doing that. But she would have continued if I didn't let that be known. So I didn't want resentment to build because I stayed quiet. That's why for your boundaries, you have to know your boundaries before you can even express them.
So it's something interesting you said. So I want to make sure I put clarity on it, okay? Because many of us, and we have this in space. We have this space in place because Dr. Conti and I have combined our expertise to create a strategic roadmap that helps you first prepare for healthy love so that you can confidently choose with clarity and sustain a good, healthy relationship. But when you talked about letting people know your boundaries up front, I want to clarify that just as a relationship coach, that many of us, when we enter the dating world, we've been divorced after 20, 30 years. Maybe we're a widow now. We've ended a long-term relationship, or maybe we've worked for a long period of time and we're ready to start dating, or even for those now that are empty nesters because we've been single parents and now our children are gone off to college. We think that we can go out and we can share a few facts about ourselves, and immediately people begin to form opinions about who we are or what we've been through and what we'll tolerate. And so, unfortunately, not everyone you meet has good intentions. And so, sharing all of those boundaries up front is not, a tool or coaching that I would say. Understanding what your boundaries are and being able to say, I, you're stepping on one of my boundaries, or that's not something I'm comfortable with. Absolutely, you need to be able to articulate that to whoever you're starting to talk to. But giving them that playbook up front, that's not what you want to do, because people will push your limits. And then they'll tell you what we talked about this, you're just being too picky. It's a manipulation. It's not modern dating. It's disrespect. It's not modern dating. It's violating my boundaries is not modern dating. But if I tell you what all of them are and you don't have good intentions, you can use that against me too.
Well, and I do agree with you to some point, but I personally don't think it's revealing your playbook. I just think is letting people know where you stand. This is my defining line. This is like boundary for me. If I have someone over that I'm dating, and I don't want them going through my fridge. If I don't want them going through
I don't.
my medicine cabinet. I don't want, because again, that's my space. If you're here to see me, if I invite you over to my house, that does not give you the right to invade certain areas. So that's my space, and I will say, hey, um, I'll let them know. So it's not much like giving out your playbook. It's just I'm defining my personal needs, my space, so they could have that mutual respect. And also with that, I also try to listen, because I want to know their boundaries as well. Because it is a mutual thing. It's not their favorite letter in the alphabet, I. I mean, if we're looking for a healthy relationship, if you're starting dating, part of that is listening. Someone used to say there's a reason you have two eyes and two ears and one mouth. It's because you're supposed to listen as well. So as you express what's your personal space, what's your what you need to foster mutual respect. You also have to listen to your partner as well.
Yeah. And once your boundaries and your presentation are aligned, and it is, it's what we put out. It's ensuring that we don't do certain things because we're lonely, right? Sometimes we
Oh,
can, you said, ooh,
yes.
what that mean?
You know, when you're trying to warm up to your favorite movie on a Friday night because nobody else is there, you start to question some of your decision making processes, some of your boundaries, and you start to waver. So, and that's a good question. I'll throw back to you. What if you somehow relented on a boundary of yours? Can you reestablish that once you get with someone? Say, okay, well, that was just to get you. The old bait and switch. Can I
Mm,
reestablish a boundary after I have lowered it, if you will, to to attract? Can I get that boundary back? Once I give a person $20 because they were short, can I say no the next time they ask?
ooh, that's a tough question. You know, I would say that I'm in a space where I don't let people step over them. I really don't. If they, or I shouldn't, let me rephrase it. If you happen to, I'm immediately going to address it.
Okay.
That's what I mean when I say not step over it, because I can't stop someone from doing a particular thing. So I don't move on them. My boundaries are what they are.
Mm.
And I stand 10 toes deep in them. Period. I don't. If someone is to ask, was to ask me for money, that, and when we say dating, remember what we're doing is a meet and greet, or even that
Right.
I've been talking to for a couple of weeks. For me, that's an out, because that's bigger to me. That's a real issue that's going to come up later. So we wouldn't have a conversation
But,
any
but
longer.
Coach Damon, she checks all the boxes. I mean, she has a good conversation. She calls me. Uh,
Mm-mm.
she was just short on rent this month.
You know what you're establishing.
Yep,
You know what you are.
I know.
You're
And
setting yourself up, and you can't change from that. The next thing is going to be, it's light bill today, rent tomorrow, car note the next day. So I'm a pass on it. I'm gonna pass on it. That's what I always do with Dr. Conte. She was here. She know I'm gonna go, nope.
that's a hard pass.
It's a hard no. It's a hard no. A
And
hard no.
you know, I read a book, a really good book by Dr. Laura Schlesinger. It was like 10 ways men mess up their lives. One of them is rescuing the princess.
Mm,
And that plays into that boundary. If you have a hard boundary, because if a coworker asks me, oh no, no. But the minute someone shows some romantic interest, oh, maybe she liked me more if I give her this. Maybe she
mm,
like the term sugar daddy didn't just come from magic. It came from a well-established practice. I will pay for romance. I'll pay for her to love me.
yeah. It's
And it is a slippery slope. Yes, it is.
Yeah, no, it's not a slope I go down on, because once you have your boundaries, you know that what they are, just like your non-negotiables. The standards are the only ones that are, uh, there's some wiggle room in there. But my boundaries, my non-negotiables, no wiggle room in there. And so once I've aligned that and I become, it will really become one of the most powerful assessment tools available in dating, because healthy boundaries don't just protect you, they reveal people. Many singles think boundaries are only about saying no, and it's not just about saying no. Boundaries are also information gathering tools. That's why they're in place. You don't really know someone when they agree with you, but you learn who they are when you encounter one of your boundaries. For example, I said it before, but I think this is a really good one because as women, we often, and I think it should be the same for men, if I'm not comfortable with giving out my home address
Mm.
in early in dating, does the person really respect that? And if you prefer, or if I prefer to move slower physically, are they going to
Mm.
honor that? If I don't answer texts during my work hours because I'm extremely busy, do they understand that or do they become demanding?
Oh.
And even something as simple as if you say you're not available one evening, I have friends, I have family, I have people that I still do things with. Do they accept it or do they try to pressure you?
Mm. And I all that is very important. And I know I've heard you and Dr. Conti had mentioned, hey, for your standards or your non-negotiables, you should write them down. I think it's also a good practice to write your boundaries down. What are your boundaries?
Yeah.
Because you might discover that, hey, these are some hard boundaries that I need to stick to.
It really is because it's not the boundary itself isn't isn't always the issue. It's the real issue is how people respond to it, right?
Right.
Because healthy people may ask a question, healthy people seek understanding, healthy people respect your boundaries. Unhealthy people, they're going to challenge them. They're going to try to negotiate them. They're going to dismiss them. They're going to test them over and over again. That's why boundaries are so much, they're just a powerful assessment tool when you're dating differently. Because
Mm.
as you're getting to know someone, you're not just asking, do we have chemistry? You're asking a lot more questions other than that.
And you also have to be ready to be alone because let's just say it's the only date. If I've heard you mention that you may only have one a month. If she's the only person who have called me in 2 months, am I willing to say, you know what, I would rather be alone than let my boundaries be questioned or give up my boundaries or yes.
And so
Go ahead.
I need to go to the chat because I hadn't done that. And someone did ask, what about a smaller boundary that wasn't verbalized? Can we come back from that? And I'm going to tell you, absolutely, you can. That was one of the things we talked about. Absolutely, you can. Because you can't expect someone to know what you're thinking, what's in your head.
Right.
That's when I talked about, you're not telling them, hey, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, right? But you can, if they've stepped over the boundary, yes, you can say, this is what I'm not comfortable with this. That didn't make me feel comfortable. And if then you have to look at, how did they respond to that? How did
That's
they respond to that?
that's what I'm saying. You gotta have communication about the boundaries, and it's like on a highway. If you're on a one lane highway and you cross the median in the other lane, that's like a boundary. Get back as soon as you can. But you know what's right. You don't stay there. You don't stay in the other lane because there ain't nothing but an accident about to happen.
Now that is true. That is true. And so we talked about that and why you have those boundaries. What makes you physically feel that way? I just mentioned standards real quick, but I always like to go back to it because practice makes perfect, right? Remember that your standards are the qualities and behaviors that you're looking for in a potential partner.
Mm.
You want somebody that communicates consistently. I value honesty and integrity, someone who's emotionally available, a partner who's financially responsible, or someone who shares similar values and life goals. And remember, your non negotiables are true deal breakers. Those are things that, if violated, you end the possibility of a relationship regardless of chemistry or attraction. So they're not the opposite of your standards. That they are dishonesty. They're physical, emotional abuse. They're an active addiction, infidelity.
Can your boundaries be negotiable or flexible?
My boundaries aren't. Can you think of one that would be?
Um,
Because I really like, again, if a boundary is something that you want to feel emotionally safe,
right.
remember it's if physically and mentally and spiritually, I don't know where that would be negotiable.
Well, because I read on some of this, and expectation can be a boundary. And sometimes we lower our expectations just because. So that would be an instance where, with some flexibility in a boundary.
Hmm. So it depends on what the expectation is.
Right. I try not to have, well, from a non, those are concrete. Those are yes, there's no flexibility there. For boundaries, yes, it's all about respecting my space, my respect,
Mhm.
preventing resentment. Because I know if I don't say anything and my boundaries are crossed, it does build up resentment. And if I'm looking for a healthy relationship, I have to communicate, because the person may have no idea they crossed that boundary. None. And if I don't say anything, just like that meat in the road, they'll keep crossing and crossing and crossing until something happens. To keep that resentment at a zero, open communication is essential, and be consistent. If it was a boundary yesterday, it should be a boundary today. Just because the day changed don't mean the boundary changed.
Mm.
So, because it sends mixed signals when you change your boundaries as the days change.
Because they help you identify healthy partners. They do. And having healthy conversations, they don't just keep the wrong people out, they help you reveal who the right people are. And you said that just through conversation.
Yeah. So, and it's always a work in progress. It's always a work in progress. That's why I always encourage, write down your boundaries so you are well aware of, hey, this is a line I will not cross. This, as you are dating out there, it is hit or miss when it comes, because there are a lot of wolves in sheep clothing. Yeah, I might lose my man card for that, but there's some guys out there that are not so nice. So it's
Or vice versa, vice versa.
it is essential that you have your boundaries in place, your standards in place, your non-negotiables in place as you charter these treacherous dating world, to exclude, differentiate, and somehow garner that respect that you deserve.
And the dating world is not so treacherous and not so scary when you do have these things in place. It
Oh, the
makes it
guardrails.
so easy. It makes it so much easier. And having your boundaries, make sure um, they're not punishments. They're not standards. They're your standard. Your standards are not unrealistic. Your non-negotiables are not up for debate. Know your lane. You talked about that, and know your worth, and stand 10 toes down
Ooh,
in it.
know your
And
worth.
ah, the people who are right for you, they'll respect the boundaries that protect your peace and you've worked so hard to build. And
Yes.
dating differently isn't about finding more people. I just want to make sure I say that it isn't about, looking at that dating app and seeing 10 a day or 20 a day or more matches. It really is about finding the right people, and healthy boundaries help you do exactly that.
Quality over quantity. Because, just this past week, I love mangoes. I spent 10 minutes going through all those mangoes at the store to find one because it met my requirements. And that's what dating is. It's not about quantity, it's about getting that quality one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy that you joined me today, Dr.
I am
Layton.
glad that I joined. It was a great topic, great host.
Yeah. So if this conversation spoke to you, be sure to follow us, join the Dating Differently Facebook page, um, YouTube page, subscribe there, follow us both on our social media platforms, and join us next week as we continue giving strategies to date with clarity, move with intention, choose with confidence, and we look forward to continuing to help you love intentionally, heal completely, and date differently. See you next week.